we go.
Cool. All right, so this is our debrief, just informal debrief of IFF HB-1C. We discussed the DLOs in the brief. What I'm going to do is try and anchor on pretty much everything that comes to mind, just so that we can get those corrections out there. But our DFPs, our major DFPs, will focus on what we briefed as DLOs. So first thing, mission preparation. The only alibi I have is that we didn't meet the timeline. That was a non-factor. Products were a little light, but sufficient on my perspective too. You got anything?
Yeah, I had a headset issue. It was not taking my, it somehow switched outputs.
Roger.
That's it.
Okay. And then ground ops. Ground ops. Once we corrected our tech issues there, were pretty solid. Light drill seemed like it was done correctly. I have two main comments for you on the comms. So you use your full tactical call sign, and I think this is kind of a repeating thing I've noticed with you, which is very formal, but frankly, it's not expected. The
Okay.
only time that would really be necessary is if there was something like that was necessary to distinguish on a tactical net, such as like you're shooting, you're targeting, you're dropping. When we're just doing radio checks, assuming that there's no other charger flight where it's ambiguous, you can just say 2, and you can do that on pry and on aux. Now, if
Copy.
you had something more important going on, you were taking the lead, needed to do nav stuff, then you're good to use the full call sign. But just for checks, go ahead and use 2. Reference the Queen check video. It's really solid on what that should look like. All
Okay.
right, let's move to this. ATC was great today. We got our clearance, EOR checks. We had a lineup in wait. We flexed. You had a nice question. Okay, do you want me to line up versus holding short? And I just wanted you to line up because he was giving us the hold and delay,
Yep.
which was fine. We do a mill power takeoff. What is the interval that you're supposed to roll for at mill power?
I held 10 seconds, but it should have been longer.
Nope, 10 seconds is correct. If it's
Oh,
afterburner, it's 15 seconds, and if it's air to
and it's low.
ground
It's 20.
or heavyweight inerts, yep, it's 20. Cool. So this is our Dream 7 departure. Pretty content with everything here. One thing we did not brief, but it is in the standards, is that you're auto cleared the air-to-air weapons and system check above, I think it's 2,000 feet AGL. So what are you supposed to do for that check? It's okay if you don't know this. We may not have covered it.
So you're supposed to check to make sure, for the weapons check, you have to check on safe that the gun does not fire. And the way I've studied it, first thing I do is go to sim and pull the trigger outside, like into a hillside, make sure the line of sight on the gun is, a clear avenue of fire. Then I switch to dogfight mode. I make sure I do not have tone outside of gimbal, but we carry X's. So if I turn my head and look at you, so I'm checking the gimbal limits on the 9X. I'm checking the gimbal on the 120s as well.
Okay. So two things there. There's a hot trigger check. There are some AFIs regarding that. We can dig into that another time. Realistically, for the air-to-air weapons and system check, what we're doing is, to your point, checking the 9X seeker field of view or a 9M field of view. Make sure that it's queuing to the helmet and that it's bore queuing to our radar. The other thing that we're doing there is we're checking our radar modes. So I'm checking HEMIX locks you up. I'm checking Slewable ACM locks you up. I'm checking vertical scan and then bore again. So the reason I highlight this is later in the sortie, there was some switchology kerfuffles with employing the radar. You can kind of
Yeah.
identify if there's a problem early in that sortie by completing these checks. If you got an issue, you can identify it and possibly solve it, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. So we passed the lead. I complete my checks. We get cleared into the MOA. I take the lead back. A couple of things here on taking the lead back. So the whole contract here is engaged and supporting. The engaged fighter is not deconflicting. The supporting fighter is deconflicting. By default, One is the engaged fighter. Now, I gave you the lead. Basically, you're out in front, so obviously I'm now deconflicting from you. I should probably give you a press call for clarity. But when we result back, right, what I'm going to say is, okay, one's on your line right, 1 mile, whatever. The comm that I'm expecting from you, especially because we're now tactical, is visual press. So we need to really add some clarity to the brevity terms that we're using. Visual is we see a friendly, right? The opposite of visual would be blind. We don't see a friendly.
Okay.
And then for bogeys and for bandits and hostiles, anything that's not a friendly, we're going to use tally.
Got it.
And the opposite of tally is no joy. So part of the confusion probably comes in that for the phases of flight, we have kind of an admin phase, we have a tactical phase, and in the tactical phase, in certain circumstances for the sets, we transition to the tally no joy comm, specifically because at that point we're an adversary, right? But for the other phases of flight, we're both wingman, flight lead, so we're going to use that visual blind comm. And it's really important that we get that verbiage correct for situational awareness, for formality, for understanding, and to achieve our visual deconfliction contract. So that's something, that's kind of a focus point. Correct the comm. As we conclude IFF, that will be kind of a core expectation, is that you are, one, aware of the difference between a visual and contractual deconfliction contract, and then what the associated brevity is for that. For example, a contractual deconfliction contract is when I say, if I'm 2 in your shoes, 2 is blind, 19.6. 2 is blind, I don't see you, I'm not deconflicting, and my electric altitude, 19.6. The expectation there is that you're going to maintain that electric altitude, and now I am either required to visually deconflict or contractually deconflict from that altitude. If I see you, I'll say one's visual, I have visual deconfliction at that point. I'm responsible. You become the engaged fighter by default, essentially. And then we're going to pass it back once we get you visual again. If I don't see you, I'm going to contractually deconflict from the altitude that you gave me. Again, review stuff that you know, but I'm emphasizing it because it's really important. And yeah, I won't beat a dead horse. All right. So the next thing we did was the G warm-up and G awareness. I've got no complaints. These were done great. This one looked like we had a bit of bleed here. Did you do this in Afterburner, or were you mill power?
I honestly can't remember.
Okay. I suspect you might have been mill power. So remember, it was AB
Yeah.
per the contract, just because I ended up with a bunch of closure, and I think my mech was like pretty solid.
Yeah.
4Gs coming through. So I suspect a power issue. No factor. We deconflict. It's not a big deal. I take the lead. This is a 90 right from very close range. You go ahead and do
Yep.
kind of a check turn. I thought you were in placing it, and so that's why I'm like delayed, but we fixed it.
Yeah.
All right. The first set, I did not get my tapes recording. So we'll just talk through it. We have a ready left, ready right. I did not do an ops check. I was supposed to do an ops check prior to this first set. We have a turn in. At this point, we're transitioning to a tally fights on, which was all done exactly how it was supposed to be done. So up to this point, everything's looking good. Let's look at your turn in. I see 5, I see 6 Gs, excellent. I see that you're arriving at about 400 knots true airspeed. So you either bled some here, looks like, yeah, 530, pretty aggressive bleed. Put the burner in here, get back to the top of the rate band, enter the fight with the rate band. Little server latency issue there,
Yep.
which might be a contributing factor. But very effective lead turn, 5,000 feet lateral separation. You see that you're completely winning. And this is what we want, okay, for these initial sets, is to really get you practicing the geometry. So I'm going to play it. Let's look at that speed. We talked about 300 and above, and that if you recognized you were slow, the expectation was that you were going to fix it.
Which I did. I pulled low on you.
Yep, good bid to low. You know, you're at 3 Gs, you're keeping it kind of neutral. I would just say let's pause, let's anchor on something real quick. I'm going to go selected object. We're going to select the turn rate.
There you go.
There we go. And I want you to kind of see what this looks like. So coming in there, 17, 12, 14, 10, below 300, 9. There's 250, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, nose low. So you can see how effective the nose low is. 10, right? What am I at? 6 over here. 8, you know, 7. So you are winning, but this is a very much a third generation threat profile.
Yeah.
I would expect most threats to be at least 10 degrees per second. And so on the efficiency side of the house, one of the things you can do when you recognize that, one of the great things about the F-16 is that we can get our power back very, very quickly. So you're not going to be able to do this all the time. There may be WES considerations. If I was a Hobbs threat, you know, high off bore sight, such as a MiG-29, I may choose to intentionally kind of WES deny, stay outside of the optimal rate band to kind of keep it neutral and stay out of a WES, right? But against a legacy threat, which we fly for IFF, I know that I'm really only threatened in the rear corner or if he comes across the circle. So the choice that I would make is I'm going to actually drop my nose. I might actually unload the aircraft to like a half G so that that jet accelerates. And I'm going to get very rapidly back to the rate band. You can put 50 knots on the airplane very quickly in like a second and a half.
Yeah.
100 knots, 200 knots comes back within a couple of seconds. So think about mechanically what happens. If the threat's flying, call it 10 degrees per second, and you lose 3 seconds accelerating, they've gone 30 degrees around the circle. Now what do you get in return for that? Instead of 8 degrees per second, you're now achieving 14, 15 degrees per second sustained rate. So you're getting 7 degrees per second advantage on them. You will make that up very quickly. So something to consider. I do see that you've got corrections. I'm happy that the nose low is there. That meets kind of our DLOs, but I want you to be aware that you can get back to the rate band a bit more aggressively. Okay, awesome. Right, 8 degrees per second, 5 degrees per second, you're winning. We don't see any AIM-120 employment, so that was kind of a con. I do see good nose position. You're lagging to drive to a position. A wasted AIM-9X shot. I don't know what the hell is happening here. It might shoot you down in a second. Okay.
Wow.
I've never seen that before.
I have never seen that either.
I was wondering when I saw it on KHOC how
what happened?
It went for the flares.
Oh, it went after your flares. Okay. I didn't even see those for a second.
I've never
I thought that
do,
and then
like,
it turned 180 degrees and came back at you.
45 Gs to come back
crazy.
at you. That is crazy. That might be a bug, probably a bug, so we won't stress about it. What I do want to stress about...
It is on... Oh, no, it is on me. Okay. I was going to say there for a moment.
What I do want to stress about is the conversion mechanics. So look at my airspeed, 450. Look at your airspeed, 365. I'm doing 3 Gs. I'm doing like a Mirage F1 profile. So one of the things I would consider here, aspect's a little bit high. You're kind of pure pursuit, although the vector is in lag pursuit. I would, at this point, I would accept a deeper kind of lag pursuit geometry to align up the circle, to get the speed on the aircraft, to watch my kind of V sub C change, kind of solve some of this aspect problem, and then drive in to a position of advantage. Now, slightly nitpicky, let's watch what happens. Your 60 aspect, right? Range is closing. There's 4,500 feet. 4,500 feet is your cue to pull for lead for a gunshot. So things out here, I think you got a lot of plan for them. You have two options. You either decide, nope, aspect is too high, which it's going to be hard to assess that in the airplane, or you're going to pull lead and shoot. So pull lead and shoot is option one. If you took that, I would accept it. I would say, hey, your aspect was not, controlled. but I would accept it as marginal. Option 2 is, nope, aspect is too high. I'm going to repo to lag and then reattack with sufficient aspect and range. Now, what you are doing is you're staying kind of in lag pursuit. 300 knots, aspect is 4,500. You're now 3,000 feet. You see that this guy is not threat reacting at all, right?
Yeah.
Now your aspect is controlled. Pause. We had a little bit of tracking here. 2,500 feet. 2,500 feet is the min range for the repo. So mechanically, the reason I'm not a fan of this is that you put yourself kind of in a vulnerable position for a bit too long. And mechanically, if he sees you kind of tracking in, he is going to be jinking, tucking under, quarter planing, doing guns defense. So what you really want to be doing is aggressively bidding to the control zone, getting established in the control zone, and then selecting your opportunity to very aggressively, rapidly pull lead and shoot him. And if you do that quickly enough, he will never see the nose come around, right? And you'll have the shot off, and he may not have an opportunity to jink it. So a couple of considerations there. Let's see what happens. 2,000 feet, I'm starting to worry about range.
Yeah.
1,500 feet, you have to repo at 1,500 feet to avoid the bubble bust. You do. It's a very gentle repo, and we've terminated the set. So I'm not a fan of getting this close. Remember, repo 2,500 is kind of the planned mechanic when you employ the gunshot. Otherwise, speed control, mechanics, big picture stuff, pretty solid set for the IFF stage. I really don't have major issues with what happened today. Improve the weapon employment, improve the radar mech, improve your gunshot mechanics, but otherwise, that was nicely done. 3,000 feet, so we terminated to avoid a... Remember? Okay, let's go to the next set. So there's probably a next set call here, which is why you're floating to the briefed parameters. We're pushing it up, we're getting ready.
Two, 6,000, ready.
Charger, check away.
2.
Great. Everything's looking good.
2.5, 2.8, turn in. 2.
5G's,
What is
awesome.
tally?
Yeah, so I was noticing here that the mids lock on you was lost, and so I was looking everywhere.
Yeah.
Could not see you.
Couple of recommendations there. On mids, the PLDT is really poor. I would not use it or get in the habit of heavily relying on it in BFM or ACM.
Okay.
It seems like it's just more hassle than it's worth. The update is like once every 9 seconds. In BMS, it's great. It's like every second. It's very solid. Here, I guess it's not every 9 seconds, but it feels like it, right? It's pretty dog shit. So a couple of things to think about so on this set in particular, we did get a little bit wider than I was expecting, but I generally make the tally call when my aircraft is kind of banked for plan view. And so work on that. A common thing that people will have happen is that they see the guy, and then as soon as this rolls out, we kind of disappear. So be mindful of that. The other thing that you can do here when we turn in is I would go dogfight aft, vertical scan, point the lift vector initially to get the lock, or while I still see the guy, use the hammocks and get a lock on this guy so that you have radar tracking. Otherwise, just, practice with the eyeballs. I promise you it will get a lot easier with proficiency and practice. So it's kind of par for the course to occasionally lose someone here, especially early in training, but that deficiency will go away pretty rapidly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that
Tally.
was the server junk.
Fights on.
So you end up getting the tally. We're still 2 miles away. I'm happy with this. One really great thing here. So you've kind of eased. Try not to ease because the more you ease, the more I have to kind of ease as well to give you the lateral separation. I'm aware of it, especially when you're new. So I'm cognizant of that. But it kind of opens up everything. In this case, it was okay because you were late. It probably gave us a little bit of time. But a great thing that I see you doing here is you've got cutoff geometry, and it looks like you're going to bid for lateral separation, which is great. We've got the fights on call. Lead turn was pretty effective, perhaps a second or two delayed. Let's check this out from your point of view. Yeah, just a second or two delayed, but not too bad. Looking at that true airspeed, keep it high. Go to the 2-circle game plan. Much better energy management. Keep it above 300, please. Let's pause. So here, my question for you, do you have a shot opportunity with the missile?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so you could probably shoot an AIM-120 here with pretty reasonable PK. So you're outside of a mile, you're pretty close to 50 aspect. The AIM-120 is going to be effective. Something to improve on later sets, right? If you go practice this stuff again, practice that weapon employment, develop the muscle memory to make it happen. But this is good. This is exactly the geometry that we want to see on a 2-circle. Now, one of the things you can do in terms of making this extension happen is bring your nose to the elbow of my turn and then unload the airplane. Get the nose 20 degrees nose low, 15 degrees nose low, afterburner, get that speed back, drive to the elbow, and then work that rate game plan into the circle. Unload here. See how you keep it 2 Gs. So that's what I'm talking about. You have an unload opportunity in this vector.
Yeah, to get behind you again.
To get behind it, it's going to be far more efficient. And the reason that I highlight this is if you look from this perspective and you think about you right here and me kind of on this transect, this should begin to look like a heat to guns exercise or a missile to guns exercise that we did earlier in the training.
Yep.
Remember the heat to guns?
Yep.
What's one of the main things you do? You do your brake turn, you fire your 120 or you fire your 9X or your 9M, and then the next thing, TC extension, turn circle extension. Yep. How do we accomplish that? Afterburner, unload, straight and level flight for just a second or two, rip into the circle, and you're ripping the circle at a very high turn rate, driving to the control zone. So hopefully you can see the BFM building blocks kind of coming together.
Yes.
The missile to gun is a great feeding point for the 2-circle high aspect. And then the offensive perch setups, which you did on the previous sortie, are a really great feeding point for the 1-circle high aspect flows, which we'll see in a second. So just some optimization here. Otherwise, we'll continue. HUD BFM, right? Don't do the HUD BFM. Yep. Where would I place him? If this is my HUD, I would be placing him to be up there, exactly. 1 to 2 HUD links above my HUD.
Shoot the missile.
Yeah, I was fighting with the missile here.
I'm channeling my inner possum. I thought about possum right before I said that.
Cat flare.
Okay, so the missile, we're now min-ranged on the 120. We obviously still have the 9Xs, but we don't really want to shoot those. We're supposed to save those for the 1-circle. But we do have 40 aspect, which is great. We love 40 aspect inside of a mile, so we probably see like 59 or 6,000. It might actually say a mile still for you. But we're closing in on some solid gunshot parameters. Let's look at speed. Speed's 460 versus 520. So we've got 60 knots, 70 knots of overtake. Sorry, 60 knots of overtake, which I'm a big fan of. That is very controlled. 80 knots is probably the sweet spot, and you're basically right there. So What I can do at this point is I can probably go pure pursuit to kind of expedite this. I also have sufficient speed that I can kind of keep it in a close lag pursuit as well. Everything is good. What I'm seeing here is that you should be employing the gun in the next 10 to 15 seconds, right? You should be taking a tracking gunshot.
2, no lock.
Yeah, I think I'm still fighting the weapon. The process.
Okay, so there's 4,500 feet, 35 aspect. Those are the perfect parameters to make the gunshot happen. So when you see this next time, what you need to do is just aggressively point your nose to lead pursuit, bring the funnel to me, right? Get that level 4 pipper on me and do your tracking gunshot. You know, the weapon didn't work. Cool, we're struggling with the missile. Hey, let's employ the gun. You got an opportunity. This guy's not reacting very well. He's poorly trained. Tenopian fighter. Let's gun him.
Too close for missiles, switching to guns.
So here you've almost got it. You've almost got it. You're now, pretty low aspect, 24 aspect, which is great. You still have a gunshot opportunity. Let's look at your speed. You've managed your closure very nicely. You're actually now a little bit slower. And the reason I'm not a fan of this mechanic where you kind of just settle in, I want you to aggressively get to 45 aspect, 4,500 feet, aggressively point the gun, have lead pursuit, fly in, and trigger down between 35 and 2,500 feet so that you can carry a speed advantage, get into the repo, and maintain a reactive kind of potential. So the reason I'm emphasizing that in BFM is because when we start working the ACM problem or the B course problems, where it's not just one guy, but he's got a wingman, I do not like the idea of getting slow, losing my kinematic, opportunity potential. I'm going to stay fast, right? You've heard the term speed is life, and it definitely applies here. If I'm worried about having to, gun this guy and then potentially jink gunshots from his wingman, in a 2v2 ACM tussle, I do not like getting slower than the adversary. So basically, while this is still valid offensive BFM, mechanically it is not best. It's not necessarily the best, I don't want to say tactic, but it's not the best technique in terms of how you can employ managing the offensive and defensive considerations. So with that out of the way, let's continue here. "4,000 feet, 30 aspects.
Tracking. Copy shot, Charger.
Okay, so awesome. You had a nice tracking gunshot. It happened, which is good. Just your Viper, get your fangs out, get slightly more aggressive with making that happen for me. Make it happen a little bit sooner on the circle. That will come with practice and time. This is actually probably one of the better sets of our 2 sets we've looked at so far. So I really like this. We copy the shot, we skip the missile, and we terminate. I'm going to fly it out for some of the admin DLOs.
Knock it off. Charger 1, knock it off.
Reason for the knock it off was I was just head over the circle looking at you and got myself a little bit tumbleweed, so I wanted to knock it off for safety of flight, get my situational awareness back, and make sure that I could get SA on you. You're so low aspect, it was very challenging to maintain the tail.
Charger 2, knock it off.
Okay, good response to the knock it off call.
Reference 320, pushing it up 400. Say again, reference. Reference 320.
So what are you cleared to at this point?
Fighting wing.
Fighting wing, awesome.
2.
But that's hard to do because we're traveling at the
I
same
think I have a
speed.
control issue.
Yep, totally valid. I just want to make sure the contract's understood.
Yeah.
Roger 2, what type of radar mech are you trying to do? Are you trying to use the HEMIX? Trying to use some RAM, so I've got... Radar is snoozed initially, so in the HUD, if you see no radar mode, follow south, and then we'll do another set. Ops check, one is 28, 33, 6.4, dry okay. 2 is 24, 28, 5100, feeding okay.
Okay, so the feeding okay implies that your tank is still feeding. So when you're
Oh,
below 7,200, you can check that your tank is dry. Then, AKA, you swap the indicator knob to external tank centerline or wing, and just make sure it says 0.
Yep.
The dry check should occur actually at 7.2, tank's dry, in which case all the following ops checks will be dry. We were actually in the middle of maneuvering where you were like 7.0 and I was 7.3, so we didn't make it happen today. Not a factor, but on the ops check, just for clarity, right? So low needle, high needle, total fuel, dry, feeding, etc. And then your systems. Are your systems okay? Is your cabin pressure okay? Is everything okay? Are you okay? If something is broken, tack end's bent, radar's bent, like you could have said, low needle, high needle, blah, 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 radar bent, right? Because like you can't get it to work today, whatever. That's more of a you problem than probably the radar in DCS, but
yeah.
Hey, it could happen in BMS, right? You lose the fire control radar. That's happened. So that's just some more context to the ops check. That was a common mistake throughout today, but no stress. We'll make sure.
I think it's because I didn't realize what the feeding was for. I thought it was the internal tanks.
Yeah.
That were balancing and that the pumps were on and operating.
Yeah. So the low needle,
realize
the low needle, high needle is the balance component, and yeah, to your point, feeding is external, and you know that now, so that's great.
Yes.
All right. So this was your VR stutter, no factor. We give you the lead, we kick it out. I get the lead back, and we go to the check away. Let's check it out. This is a high aspect BFM, 1 circle for 2 at this point.
2.7, turn in. One's tally. 2, no
It's
join.
odd how you.
I'm a little low. I'm at 20,000.
Say again, 2?
Never mind. Continue. By the time I saw you, we were already too
2,
close.
tally. Charger, terminate, reference 180. 2.
Yep. So 2 things. When you don't get the tally on the turn in, you have a tendency to just kind of focus on regaining the tally and you forget to maneuver or fly the airplane. So keep flying the airplane while striving for the tally. You can see, even though you had kind of a late tally, which was it was going to affect the setup geometry, mechanically it's not a factor. We terminate the set, you reference south, I reference south, and we're right back to doing this again.
Reference 180, next set is the same. Offensive, correction, high aspect BFM, 1 circle for 2. 1's ready, right?
I was checking everything. That's why the silence.
Roger. By the way, this little line, I haven't talked about it. This is actually where I'm looking. And if we merged your TAC view, like with your personal single recording, we'd be able to see where you're looking as well. We don't necessarily need to do it for BFM, but when we start doing ACM, if there's problems, super handy. So just make sure you got TAC view set up.
Alright, we got airspace coming up. We're gonna do a hook turn. Charger, hook, right.
It's odd that I didn't respond to that.
You're not expected to. In fact, you're not supposed to.
Oh, that makes sense.
So the rule of thumb there is if it's the visual arena and I see you, you don't need to say anything. The only time that you would say something, you would actually respond to something, is if it's a directive, like I need you to do something. And one of the indicators for that would be a go comm. So charger, hook right, go. Go means I need you to say something. If I don't say go, which personally, I am never going to say go because it's a visual arena. I should be able to see you. I should see the TAC end, all that good stuff. So you'll never see me say that. If it's a visual arena, you can stay quiet. No need to respond.
Copy.
Just looking at our TAC turn here. Pretty solid, pretty solid. one of our DLOs for the sortie, so I'm content. I see that. That's pretty nice.
Alright, Charger, reference 360. I've got us at 2 miles, no factor. Next set, high aspect, BFM, 1 circle for 2, 1's ready left. 2 is ready right. Check away. Turn in.
A little bit earlier of a turn in that time.
1's tally. 2 is tally.
Keep that turn coming.
Lights on. Lights on.
Okay, so the double fight's on there. It seemed like you were still keyed on the radio, and
I might have been.
I was concerned that you didn't hear the fights on, so that's why I double punched it.
Copy.
Okay, great lead turn. I like the lead turn. No altitude difference here. Not a major DLO. We'll cover that more in the B course. There are some considerations: high to low to high. Generally on a 1 circle, if I'm in your shoes and I've got freedom to maneuver at the checkaway, I'm going to do a low to high transition to assist with that 1 circle conversion, just as part of my game plan. And on the 2 circle, I'm going to do a high to low to transition to that rate game plan. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna study that. What you just said.
So here, right, you've got 2,700 feet of lateral separation. Awesome. That's basically one of our turn radiuses. It is actually a major game plan error or BFM error for this guy to reverse, but we're going to do it anyways. And what you should see is that you are immediately winning after the first circle. And the reason,
shot.
yes, the reason that you're winning is because of this lateral separation. Now, in some sets, we will go 0-0 on lateral, but we'll keep 1,000 on the vertical, so that you still have the bubble, or 2,000 on the vertical sometimes, but you don't end up with this immediate winning situation. Now, early on, I'm going to give it to you so you can see how this is supposed to flow. So you can see, like, you've got 5,000 feet, aspect is low. 1, you're in a position for a gunshot, right? 2, you're in a position for a 9x shot. And you're almost in position for a 120 shot. Now, a 120 might connect, but I would not take it. That's pretty low PK. Okay, 6,000 feet, 70 aspects. This should start to look right here. What does this look like? I'm going left, you're going right. This should look exactly like offensive BFM perch sets. And what did we learn in the perch set? When he goes left, I counter turn right. And why? To line up the turn circle. So we're already kind of back into a 2 circle game plan. It was 1 circle initially, now it's 2 circle. Here's another BFM error, right? I'm reversing in front of you. It's only an error if you know how to counter it. How do you counter it? You bid to 6, right? So let's draw that lift vector, 3,000 feet out the back of the airplane, high 6. You've got plenty of options here. I'm okay with this vector position as well. Okay.
I don't think I saw it reverse.
Okay. So he buries the nose low. So perception issue if you didn't see it. But mechanically, now the vector has changed. Get your nose up high so that you can solve the problem. The problem you have right now is you're at 20 aspect and 3,000 feet. And this guy's still maneuvering, so you want to fight yourself to the control zone. I would accept a closer control zone, 4,000 feet or so. I think that's tolerable. But you really want to work on what are the weapon parameters that I need to employ. So your options here are to repo, work, fight to the control zone, stay offensive, all of that good stuff. You know, solve the range problem. You don't want to keep closing in. Option 2, you're outside of the 2,000 foot kind of min range for the 9X. So shoot the 9X. There goes the 9X.
Misses.
No track. The big problem I see here is the lift vector placement, kind of pretty aggressive.
Yeah, should have been up. Yeah.
You're now 2,000 feet. You can see that with some vertical turning room, right? If you bring the nose up here, come to the outside of the circle, roll in up high, you would probably be in a position for a tracking gunshot as I make this right-hand turn slice. Here, you're in a position where you're too close to really do anything effective. If you try pointing the nose, you're going to have a bubble bust. If you shoot me, you're going to frag your own jet as you fly through the fireball.
2, Fox 2, miss. Copy shot, keep working it.
So keep working it. I knew that you were super close. What I wanted you to see happen is actually this mechanic here where you're kind of in lag pursuit. You can kind of ease pretty aggressively here. Now there is a concern for me reversing back the other way. So you got to balance it. It looks like you're doing a nice job. But I want to see you solve aspect. Aspect is solved. And I want to see you solve range. And so repo, bid to 6, all that good stuff.
I'm twice your speed almost.
Yep, so that's a problem. You can solve it with some G, so that's good. Great bid to 6 here, good counter turn.
PK, terminate.
And we knock it off. Reason for the knock it off was I thought this was a bubble bust. And you saved it by 178 feet. All right.
Well, that's good to know.
One more
It was
set.
too close.
Let's check this out. This was a problem. So you're cleared fighting wing. I want you to hear the comms again.
Alright, one's gonna be hooking right for airspace.
Yeah.
2.
So that was a courtesy comm. I don't have to
Right.
tell you anything. You're in fighting wing. I can freely maneuver. What I was trying to do was give you some SA. We're at the north end of the range. Here's my game plan.
Yeah.
I'm going to hook right. I don't know.
So that was a misunderstanding on my part.
Okay.
I thought you were separating and then you were coming back in on the same heading.
No.
And you just kept turning. So when you said you were hooking right, I didn't realize that I had to follow you. I thought you were separate because you said I'm hooking right for separation.
Yep. So I said I'm hooking right for airspace. So let's talk about the misunderstanding.
Misunderstood. Yeah.
The expectation is that you are IPOC in position or correcting. The only times that you are going to be out of position, right, leaving the formation, is when you hear cleared off or cleared split, right? Unless you hear 2, you're cleared off, which means go off, do your own thing, fly away, go away from me. Or 2, you're cleared split, which essentially means 2, transition to geographic deconfliction, aka go do XYZ. It should make sense. Like 2 cleared split to the north. That would be the comm where it's like, okay, 2, you just go do your thing. Otherwise, IPOC, in position or correcting. If you don't understand and you think you're supposed to be split, then you should clarify while staying in formation. Confirm, you want me split to the north? Negative. Cleared fighting wing. Cool, I'm in fighting wing already. Problem solved. So,
okay. I thought you were separating so that we could start another set.
Yep, totally understand the confusion.
Okay.
Now you see the context. Fighting wing is fluid maneuvering, and your IPOC unless cleared off or cleared split.
Copy.
Easy misunderstanding, but like easy to not make that mistake again. You see it now. It will be a non-factor.
One's Buster.
I'm just letting you know, hey, I'm going Buster for this turn. I see the TACAN building.
Where'd he go?
So whenever you hear a status call and it's not ACM, that's your, shit, I fucked up. Is what that means. And one's like, what the hell are you doing to? And it's a polite way of saying, hey, fix yourself.
Well, you can hear it in your voice. You can hear it in your voice. You're like, I'm like, oh shit. Because here I'm waiting for you to come back, to turn back in. Nope, didn't happen.
2 status.
Yeah, let's think about that, right? So unless I give you the lead, right, and then I start maneuvering, or I give you a reference heading because you're split like I'm going to, like you're maneuvering off of me, right? Now, if for whatever reason, like you're task saturated, I need to give you the lead, I'm probably going to say, 2, you've got the lead, press, and then I'll maneuver and deconflict and do what I have to do. Otherwise, IPOC. Now, number 2, the second thing that would save you here is in the visual arena during tactical maneuvering, with the exception of a cross turn and with some other weird exceptions like out of phase, out of plane on ACM, and some other obscure things, which I'm not going to talk about now, such as the notch point. One of the things that will save you is if you live by the rule of thumb that in the visual arena, my heading should be no more than 90 degrees off of my flight lead's heading. You will never like screw up bad enough that it's hard to fix. Now, we fixed it pretty easy today, but if you were like, ah, shit, dude, he's like over there and I point my nose over here, yeah, the formation opened up, but we can fix it with a 90 tack form of some sort. You're basically in sensor. It's super easy to go from sensor to visual. If you continue and it's more than 90 degrees, suddenly we have some serious problems to fix this geometry problem. Now, I should probably introduce the point mechanic into the point and rejoin mechanic into IFF. Something we can discuss down the road. I think there's some mixed opinions on that one. So there are ways to expeditiously fix it. They are slightly more advanced though. So yeah, just be cognizant of that 90-degree rule of thumb.
Yeah, if I had recognized that I was that messed up, I would have been already fixing it.
So I had a 2 tally call. Remember 2's visual. We're in the admin portion.
Right.
2, I've got you 5 miles. Status, are you flowing north?
So you're already fixing it. Awesome.
Copy, yeah, I was going 360. That was your last call.
Okay, roger 2, snap south, reference 180.
2.
Yeah, that was just a total foobar.
Okay, so a couple of things here. Mechanically, we do not have positive visual deconfliction. I mean, we kind of do. You said tally, but let's be honest. There's no way you can see me at 8 miles. Now, maybe in DCS, but real world, like, you'd have to be 20/10 vision to see it. It's freaking hard to see airplanes at 2 miles. 8 miles is, like, insane. So we should establish some contractual deconfliction, some altitude separation. I could do this via mini blocks. I could do this via maintain X altitude. We want to get that established. We haven't really hit it super hard in IFF, although it was addressed in F1C regarding sensor formations. A sensor formation deconfliction line is that by 2 miles, we need to have either contractual deconfliction or visual deconfliction. The way that works is you're either visual, you say the visual outside of 2 miles, or you say blind with your electric altitude and the other guy deconflicts if he's not visual. So just putting that out there for context.
Great.
I've given you a reference heading to fly, snap 180, so now the expectation is that you're going to fly that reference heading. Which you're doing, which is good.
So go ahead and descend and maintain 18,000. One is blind but looking, and I'm at 17.
2.
So this is me vertical scan, pointing my nose in your general direction and going to get that radar SA.
2 is at 17.6.
Roger 2, 1's visual, 16.6, continue south.
Dude, look at us. It's like we know what we're doing. There's a 2 mile deconfliction. We've got the radar as well. I've got you continuing cold.
Alright, 2, go ahead and set 400. And in place, right reference 240.
Super fast above the Mach. You're above 5,000, so don't worry. The Air Force is not coming after you. But so right 230, get your speed solved. You can see I'm floating forward.
2, 1 is your line right.
Did you say he broke Mach back there?
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slightly low, 1.5 miles.
2. Tally.
All right. 2 tally.
Tally.
You keep saying
Yeah.
tally. I want you to burn this into your brain. 2's
working
visual,
on
press. Visual, press. Visual, press. I promise you, if you say visual press, you're going to make me happy, and you're going to say the right thing in like 90% of the situations that you'll encounter.
Okay, reference 240.
Okay, we've updated the reference.
One's
We're at a
got
mile.
the lead on the right.
We've got the lead back.
2. 1 has lead on the right.
So let's talk about this. So in the kind of admin-y phase, fighting wing, that's where it's like, all right, you have the lead kind of deal. we're doing it, but if you say visual press, it actually kind of means the same thing. Like you have the lead because I'm deconflicting from you and I'm going to be flying IPOC. It's kind of what that means when it's coming from 2. So we're being extra verbose today in the sortie to make sure that there's some understanding, but just understand that the comms can be dramatically simplified and much more expeditious with the use of visual press, one's engaged, all that good stuff.
Charger 145 left.
Great. So it's a delayed turn, which is good. Medium altitude. You're chilling. One thing I'm going to nitpick you on is you turn slightly early. I want you to wait until I come out this side of the airplane before you make your turn. So you're just slightly early. It's not a major deal here, but you can see how you turn slightly early.
Yep.
What that does is it kind of keeps you up very forward on the 3-9 line.
High ass.
That being said, you do a nice job. You manage it. You're kind of like doing great here. Actually, you're perfect within 1 degree, so you're good. Even with the screw up, you make it work. You're doing what Sleepy would call you're being an athlete, which is what we want.
Perfect. BFM. 1 circle for 2. 1 is ready left.
Okay,
2 is
HCA.
ready right.
So heading crossing angle, you're like 15-20 degrees right.
Yeah.
You can see that the tack end's opening up. This is a very challenging aspect of flying the F-16. We're a small fighter. It's really hard to judge aspect. It's really hard to judge these mechanics. I struggle to do this correctly as a wingman. So as compensation, as flight lead, I really hate it when my wingmen are struggling. It annoys me when they're not in position. So I'm going to try and make their life easy with reference this heading. As soon as we roll out, I'm giving a reference heading. Now, in VMC day conditions, that's not necessary. At night conditions, it's necessary. What you will find is if you go fly with some other flight leads, not a dig on them, it's just a different style of flying, they might not say a reference heading. And the expectation is not for you to ask. The expectation is for you to be IPOC, in position or correcting. So it's challenging. I'm cognizant it's challenging. It's kind of a very nuanced discussion, but just want to give you that context that solve it, just, let it develop. Okay, shit, I'm opening, fix it. Generally, you're going to be within 10 degrees. In this case, it's a little bit more, but.
Charger, check away.
Not a problem today. We're checking away, nitpicking on the formation.
No, that's good though.
2.6, turn in.
All right, top of the mock.
1's tally.
5Gs, I like it.
2 is tally.
Great tally call. On key, on key, on key. I don't hear the end of your
Fights
key.
on.
There it is. And then I call fights on. I'm going to do it on prime. I'm going to double tap it again because it seemed like you were still keyed. Maybe it's just me, my radio.
Fights on.
Lead turn now. A little delayed. Okay, this time, instead of me taking away turning room, lateral separation, I've given you an extra 1,000 feet. So bandit mechanics were not what I wanted, but your mechanics here, lead turn, are good. Watch the lift vector placement. Keep it horizontal for the first 90. You can see how it's stacked exactly towards me. This is what I was trying to brief you on. So not a huge deal because we have lateral separation. Becomes a very big deal as I get closer to you and we don't have lateral separation. This lift vector for the first 90 degrees of turn needs to be on the horizon. It's very, very common error. So be cognizant of that because your bandit might make the same mistake.
Okay.
Okay. The nose high is because I wanted to see you execute the nose high game plan. Once you've completed the first 90 degrees of turn, you can go nose high, right? You can get that high game plan going. All right, great bid to 6. Aspect's a problem. Range is pretty marginal. BFM error. How do we capitalize? We bid to 6. Okay, you've got power advantage. I would keep this lift vector pointed up here.
Yep.
Hey, nice. Really nice. Okay, he's coming back through. I like this lift vector placement, maybe just another second longer. Aspect is solved, range is getting solved, speed is about the same. Now we're thinking weapon employment for sure. We should have been shooting Fox 2s at this point, but now we're thinking gun employment. A little bit more lag.
2 is bingo.
Charger, knock it off. Charger 1-1, knock it off.
Cool. There's the bingo call. I
Oh,
think you were Joker, right?
yeah, Joker. And I almost corrected myself, but you started calling knock it off.
Cool. So we knocked it off because it was a bingo call. But yeah, if it was Joker, I probably would have PK continued for just a little bit longer. Let you solve this. I think you see it in the TAC view with some practice. These mechanics will get improved. Very solid, Rook. Honestly, very solid. I don't have major complaints for you, other than what I've just been grilling you on for the last 40 minutes. So nicely done. We get you tied up. We do not do a BD check, which we should according to the OIs, but we skip it because it's IFF and I was lazy. We're talking about the SFOs. So I'll just say this. Refer to the 3.3. It's very solid regarding the SFO. My comment to you is something to be aware of from an aerodynamics perspective, is that best glide occurs at LD max, where the coefficient of lift is its highest point relative to the coefficient of drag. AKA, for the minimal amount of drag, we have optimal lift, right? And so that occurs in the F-16 at 7 degrees AOA. Now, max endurance in the airplane, which is the maximum amount of time that we can stay airborne, is also essentially LD max. There are some very weird edge case nuances with altitude and engine performance, but just consider it LD max. What that means is if you go on the cruise page and you mode select on endurance, you're going to get a caret, which is a speed to fly, right? On your HUD tape, your speed tape. And if you fly that speed, you look at your AOA gauge, it is 7 degrees AOA. So that's how I would cheat. Just idle, get the nose up. You're going to want to trade altitude for airspeed. If you're fast, if you're 400 knots, I'm going to point the nose up and I'm going to climb pretty gently. I don't want to G the airplane, but I'm going to climb at a 1G until I get to that optimum glide speed of 7 AOA. Now, the other considerations which we did not discuss are how much fuel does the EPU have? What are the other things I'm going to do? Not things that we'll do for the SFO, but if it was a real flame out, right? EPU, JFS start, all of that stuff. You've got about 10 minutes, so there might be some edge cases where you actually don't want to climb and you're going to get the nose down and all of that stuff. What I would call out to you is probably in my opinion, the hardest approach to do is a straight in SFO. If you're doing an overhead SFO where you do the high key, base key, low key, base key, like it's pretty mechanical. It's a pattern. You practice it. You've got reference points. Am I high? Am I fast? Am I slow? That's pretty easy with some practice. The straight in is very challenging. One of the things that can, well, let me ask you, what can affect my energy management decisions when I'm flying? Wind, exactly, right? So if I have a tailwind, I might shoot for that 11 degree AOA approach, right? Once the airfield is below 11 degrees AOA, I'm going to get the gear down. I'm going to fly that 11 degree descent profile in to my flare. With the SFO, or the flame out pattern rather, the intention is not to flare it exactly on the 500 foot marks or on the numbers or on the 1,000 marks. It is about 1/3 down the runway, according to the 3.3, where we're going to make that flare happen. So it's okay if you end up going a little bit long. You notice today, even on the low approach, you it looked like you kind of ended up long. That's okay. That's normal. What I tell people is I would rather overrun the end of the runway at 30 knots than be a flaming smoke, of wreckage 1,000 feet short of the runway, right? So it's better to land long than short. Energy management is hard. Now, conversely, if I have a headwind, it's a stiff headwind, I might wait until the airport is like 16 degrees nose like below on my pitch ladder to ensure that I've got the field made. Now,
Ouch.
I noticed that your approach mechanics were going to put you very high and fast, so I got pretty directive on the radio, which is not optimal for a learning experience. So I have a question for you before we play it. Do you have any questions about what I was trying to articulate, or did it make sense as we were in the air flying it? Because we're about to play tapes.
I guess I first didn't realize we were going to the left runway. I just visualized the right. So that's what I was setting up on. And then when I heard left, finally, that's when I did a drastic adjustment.
Okay.
So that's the number one thing that I remember. Number two, I thought I had plenty of AOA once I did this switch. And I never had to mess, I never had to cheat with the engine at all.
Yeah.
And I did have plenty of boards, so I could extend the boards just a little bit more. I did wait for a while to put the gear down, simply because I wasn't sure if I had the speed to make the runway yet.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's great. So the first one about what runway, I think there was, I'm not going to play it for time, but there was definitely plenty of comms between Tower and me regarding straight and SFO 21 left. So there's a term for it, normalization of deviancy. That's not it. Expectation bias, perhaps. That is a really easy one. You're used to something because you do it all the time, and then when it's not the same, you continue in that pattern. So correction there, just listen to the radio, interpret what the radio says, not what you want it to say. There's probably a better way of articulating that, but that's a real world thing as well that people encounter, so no stress. Okay. Your 12.5 TAC view things are going to be slightly off, so no stress here. What we can see here is 3 degrees AOA, and then we've got the end of the runway here below the 15-degree pitch ladder. So what that tells us is that you can make the field. Now I'm going to pull it back, right? And so if you think of 10 degrees right here, you see how this 10-degree line is actually past. So what that tells me is dude, I cannot make the field right now. If I drop the gear, I'm not going to make it. So how do we fix it? Well, a couple of options. We delay dropping the gear. That's option one. You keep it 1G chill. That's, you're fast. That's fine. You can kind of watch that tape kind of approach the field and time it. The other option, which is appropriate, is to very cautiously climb the airplane until you get to the optimum AOA of 7 degrees. And the reason for that is that it is more efficient from a, well, let me clarify that sentence. It is generally more efficient from an aerodynamic perspective to trade excess speed for altitude. The reason being that at this point, the dominant factor, which is going to reduce your kinematics, if you will, is parasitic drag, because we're past LD max. So we'll trade for altitude and get that back on the glide. Now again, time for the EPU to run is a factor. So it's not like that's a easy kill all the time. If I'm at 45,000 feet, I'm not going to trade extra speed to go up to 60,000 feet. I'm going to point towards the nearest airfield and I'm going to be nose low and I'm going to end up being fast, and that's fine. But as we kind of transition to making this approach happen, I just want you to be cognizant that sometimes you will need to climb the airplane.
Okay.
Two is idle.
Okay, so here's the
Charger
flame
1
out.
pushing tower. Charger, push Prime 4.
10 degrees. Speed's coming down. AOA is building. We like all this. This is good.
Charger check.
Charger 1-2.
Nellis Tower, Charger 1, 2 ship F-16s, Straight in SFO, runway 21 left.
I think I was just
Charger
focused
1,
on the
Nellis
numbers.
Tower.
I wasn't really listening to you two.
Yeah.
So I missed it.
Cleared SFO, runway 21 left. Cleared for the option.
Clear the option, we'll plan the duck re-entry, Charger 1.
All right. So now we've got like 12, 13 degrees. Things are starting to look good. Now I feel okay to descend. I can kind of fly this pitch attitude.
Mhm.
Alright, good work 2. We're high. Go ahead and drop the gear.
So I assessed that we were still slightly fast, which I can see here in the AOA bracket, and that we were pretty high. So at this point, I'm like, all right, to make this SFO work, I need to be directive with you on the radio. My guess is you probably would have had a pretty reasonable pass without me on the radio. I do think you would have landed pretty long, and may have probably like flown and landed in the touchdown zone at the end of the runway. So again, straight in SFO, energy management is incredibly hard. The 3-3, which I think our 3-3 on the wiki reflects this. If it doesn't, you'll know very soon because I know you're working on some stuff there. We might have some language to improve it, but I think we're using the improved language, which will, make sense when you go read this after the sortie. You'll see that it makes sense, hopefully. So anyways, that's why I direct you to drop the gear. We've got 15 degrees for the threshold. I know that the field is made at this point. Winds are out of the south, 1857 knots, so that is a factor. We do have a headwind. 11 degrees is very challenging, and the reality is you may end up off the field with 11 degrees. You may end up short. 13 degrees is kind of the sweet spot because it gives you extra speed, but not excessively extra speed. So that's what I was trying to articulate, I think, here in a little bit, is to basically get your flight path marker on the threshold or end of the runway, really, and then make sure that your descent profile is on 13 degrees with your gear out and you're golden. There's 16 degrees.
2, gear down.
Go ahead and use some boards. Get yourself so that you're on a 13 degree glide slope intercept.
And that's probably 17 and a half, right? So if you put your flight path marker here, you're on a 17 and a half degrees kind of glide slope,
Okay.
if you will. So 13 is right here. And 13, again, is to my point, the compromise between extra energy so that we don't end up short and not too much energy that we end up long. So I'm trying to talk you on.
Your flight path marker should be below the bottom of the runway.
Now I see we're super high, so I'm trying
So
to...
stick your flight path marker on the touchdown zone, or sorry, the threshold.
Yeah, we're getting some corrections there.
2.
You're on a 17 degree glide slope.
You see the pitch ladder coming down. 15 is dropping towards the threshold.
We are
If you can drop
fast,
the nose a bit more, go ahead and drop.
but that's okay. We're okay with being fast because at this point, we have all the energy we need. We don't need to fly optimal glide. What we need to do is manage our extra energy to make sure we actually land on the runway.
Bit like 500 short of the threshold to expedite. Come left for lineup.
So happy coincidence. You can spend some energy here. You're going short. Now, as you stay short, what will happen is that these bars will start to trend down. And when the 13 bar trends down to the 1,000 footers, that's when you can kind of chill, bring the flight path marker up to that 13 degree and fly the rest of the approach.
A little bit more left for lineup. Runway 21 left 2.
We're solving
Copy,
it.
left.
Altitude.
Back right.
Yeah,
Alright, there is
pause this. Pause this. So as soon as you said left, for some reason, my brain snapped, and I'm like, "Fuck the numbers." Pardon my French.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is intuitive at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I get on the right glide path. So go ahead and go.
Yeah.
I am fast, but
So The only reason that I'm stressing the TTP, because again, to your point, it is fairly intuitive, is that on the
Yes.
straight in the absence of like being an athlete and just doing it intuitively, without the technique, it is very challenging to determine and manage energy. With the technique, you'll find that energy management is super easy and repeatable. So that's the advantage of the TTP, where you apply the glide slope intercept between 11 and 17 degrees, and then optimally for DCS conditions, about 13 degrees.
13 degrees,
Yeah, but
13
as soon as
degrees,
I-
close the boards, fly the
It's
wall.
good to
As
get
soon as
used to
I-
these visual cues without looking also at the numbers, just because if you have a HUD out SFO or a HUD out flame out,
Yeah.
a real flame out, you need to kind of realize how it looks
Yeah.
without
Agreed.
that. So
Great point, Turtle.
Approach.
So here, end of the threshold, 13 degrees. Bring the flight path marker there, which you're doing intuitively, right? This is awesome. This is super cool. Energy management, we're slightly fast, but we don't care. We'll take it.
Go around. Charger 1 flight on the go, duck reentry.
Charter 1 flight, clear deck reentry.
Altitude. Altitude.
Okay, so your go around was fairly delayed. Reason for the go around is it was a low approach, and we did not want to lose a jet on the runway because, again, the transition is challenging. We're tracking with the AFIs. Completing a gear down landing SFO is an interesting perspective. Things have changed recently as of like a month ago, but this is generally good guidance for a new guy. Okay, now we're trying to do the duck reentry. And actually, we flew that again, so I don't even need to anchor on it in the TAC view. You see what we did wrong, right? We
Yeah, I've never flown that. Let me rephrase. I've never been shown the visual path. I've just seen the document diagram
Yeah.
in the 11250. So that really helped me today. So thank you.
Well, good. I feel like we should have shown this to you sooner. And honestly, one of our weak points is that we need to improve our Nellis LAO material. But the DOE ramp is here. Here's, I think, Sunrise or Frenchman Mountain. I forget. Check the docs. They go drop water over here, so there's like high density helicopter traffic occasionally. So we re-enter via that. We won't anchor on it. ATC was a bro and let us just like totally change the game plan 4 times. The overhead recovery, just to wrap this up, I briefed a couple of speeds and then was like 20 knots off of them. So I will take the spear on like shitty flying, and then you take the spear on that flight lead is always right and that you need to work aggressively to be IPOC in position or correcting.
Yes.
So, you know, we're pretty wide for this, which is why I say, hey, delay your turn so that you don't cut me off. And mechanically, this all looks nice. You go past the racetrack, and it looks like you had a nice landing.
Ish. It was a little long.
Yeah, 3.5 degree glide slope. Landing long is actually good. Wake turbulence mitigation. I try and land short, you try and land long. Then you don't have to fly through my wake turbulence. Not generally a factor on our AO1 because of server performance, but some servers do have it on. 163rd, cough cough. And if you're not used to managing or mitigating wake turbulence, it is very scary when you hit it and your wings go 50 degrees left or right.
Wow. Okay.
Cool. So good job too. You didn't maybe plan it, but you did great wake turbulence mitigation, landed long, which is what we want, and we're cleared off. So this is a pass. This is effective sortie for HB-1C.
Excellent.
My comments to you would be prior to ACM, go shoot down go do the hot starts, the instant actions, get the radar and the weapons working. Practice saying Fox 2, Fox 3, kill, blah, blah, blah. Practice the comms because ACM is very comms intensive. And because you'll be flying with a blue guy and a red guy, tally visual is critical. Blind no joy is critical. So we want to make sure that the comms clarity is there. But dude, Awesome sortie. Good work. I know we said it was going to be practice, but I was hoping it would be good, and it was. So that's a sign off.
Excellent.
Brooke,